Good morning, Algebra 1 CP students. In today's lesson, we're actually going to start factoring quadratic trinomials, and I'm going to do it in a very systematic ways. Some books have you factor quadratic trinomials by using a guess and check method, okay? I actually have a little system, and I think the steps actually help people. That way you kind of know what to expect from the problem. Okay, so first, let me give you the distinction between what we've done so far and what we're going to do today. So in the previous lessons, I might have given you something like this. The problem would say multiply binomials, and you have x plus 4 times x plus 5. And then the answer would be x plus 4 times x plus 5 equals x squared plus 9x plus 20. So you multiply binomials by using FOIL, and you get a quadratic trinomial. Or I might ask you to multiply 5x squared plus 3 times a 2x minus 5, multiply the binomials, and the answer was 10x squared minus 19x minus 15. Or I might have asked you to multiply binomials 9x minus 3 times 4x minus 1, and then the answer would be 9x minus 3 times 4x minus 1 equals 36x squared minus 21x plus 3. Okay, so in today's lesson, notice the command has been to multiply, right? So you're taking two things together, you're multiplying them, you're turning it into one polynomial. In today's lesson, we're actually going to be going backwards. So the backwards version of the first problem is I'm going to ask you to factor the result x squared plus 9x plus 20, and then the answer would be x plus 4 times x plus 5. The command factor, right? To factor means to pull things apart as a product of two or more factors. Or I might have asked you to start at the end to factor a 10x squared minus 19x minus 15, and then the answer is 5x plus 3 times 2x minus 5. I might ask you to factor 36x squared minus 21x plus 3, and the result is 9x minus 3 times 4x minus 1. So the command in this case is to factor. Okay, it might seem intimidating. How do you get from x squared plus 9x plus 20 to x plus 4 times x plus 5? But I'm going to kind of go through the steps to help you factor, all right? So let's just jump to an example. I'm asking you to factor the trinomial x squared plus 7x plus 10. So we are trying to come up with a FOIL problem that results in x squared plus 7x plus 10. That's what we're trying to do. Okay. The first step is to identify the coefficients a, b, and c in ax squared plus bx plus c. So we're used to doing that from the last two lessons. The coefficients are a equals 1, b equals 7, and c equals 10. Okay. Now, step 2 should be very familiar because that was the topic of the last two lessons. We're going to look for two numbers, r and q, so that when you multiply them, you get a times c, and when you add them, or their sum is b. So you're looking for two numbers so that their product is 10, a times c. A times c is 10, and b is 7. All right, so I'm not going to go through the guess and check steps because we've done it in two lessons, and I've graded your homework, and you seem to be doing all right with this. So if you're thinking of two numbers that when you multiply them, you get 10. When you add them, you get 7. Those numbers are 2 and 5, okay? So step 2 is to come up with two numbers whose product is AC and whose sum is B, and those numbers are 2 and 5. Okay. Step 3 might look a little weird, but you'll see why we're doing that in a second. Step 3, I'm going to take my quadratic trinomial x squared plus 7x plus 10, and there's a reason why I kind of highlighted the 7x, and I'm going to replace that 7x with 2x plus 2x and 5x. And why 2 and 5? Because those were the two numbers I got in step 2. So instead of writing plus 7x, I'm going to break that 7x up as plus 2x and plus 5x. Okay, so that's step 3. I'm not going to keep the 7. I'm going to replace it with plus 2x and plus 5x. Okay. Now step 4. So I'm going to start where I ended. I'm going to start with where I ended, x squared plus 2x plus 5x plus 10, and then I'm going to look, so okay, so you have 4 terms, right? You have 4 terms. I'm going to look at the equation, at the expression 2 terms at a time. So first I'm going to look at x squared plus 2x, right? The first group. And I'm going to ask, what is the greatest common factor that I can factor from x squared and 2x? And then I'm going to look at 5x and 10, and I'm going to ask, what's the greatest common factor I can factor from 5x and 10? The greatest common factor I can factor from x squared and 2x is x. And if you factor out an x, what you will be left with is x plus 2, right? X squared divided by x is x. 2x divided by x is 2. So x squared plus 2x, if you factor out x, you get x times x plus 2. And then 5x plus 10, the greatest common factor is 5. So if I factor out a 5, I get 5. Then 5x divided by 5 is x. I get x plus 2. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I want to make sure the things I have in parentheses, the 2 binomials I have in parentheses, are identical. And for all the problems we do today, they are going to be identical. For next class, I'm going to show you what happens if they're not identical. So for now, we're just going to get used in the habit. Okay, x plus 2, x plus 2, they're identical. Okay, so far so good. That's my step 4. Step 5 is I'm going to start out with the previous steps. So x squared plus 2x plus 5x plus 10 equals x times x plus 2 plus 5 times x plus 2. And then this is what I'm going to do. You have 2 terms, 2 groupings being added, and they both have a common binomial of x plus 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor x plus 2 out. So write x plus 2 in parentheses by itself here, just the same way it's here in parentheses. And then in a second set of parentheses, I'm going to write what's left over, an x and a plus 5. So what I get is in parentheses x plus 2 times in parentheses x plus 5. So the first set of parentheses is going to be the common binomial, and then the second set of parentheses is the whatever is left over, so x plus 5 here. This is called factoring out the quantity x plus 2. Alright, so step 6, I'm going to state the final answer. I'm going to write x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals x plus 2 times x plus 5. Okay, now I'm not quite done yet. What I want to do is I want to check my work. So this is my conclusion, right? This is step 6. I want to check my work. I want to make sure that when I multiply this, I get this back, x squared plus 7x plus 10. So step 7 is to check your factoring by multiplying. So I'm going to write x plus 2 times x plus 5, and then I'm going to apply the FOIL pattern. So first is x times x, outer is x times 5, inner is 2 times x, last is 2 times 5. So I get x squared plus 5x plus 2x plus 10, or x squared plus 7x plus 10. So I actually do get what I started with, okay? So your factoring is correct. But the factoring part is the one that's in the red box. All right, we're going to try another problem. Problem 2.